everybody. Welcome. Happy Monday. I hope everyone had a very good weekend and your day is off to a wonderful start. So we're going to get into this, and it's going to be a little bit of a joyful mess because we're going to engage probably the most mysterious part of the voice that exists. The mixed voice is notorious for being kind of this nebulous place in the resonating chambers where people get very, very, very confused. So I'm going to do my best to break this down in terms of resonance. We've got a couple of levels that we engage registers at. And I just want to remind you, we've got the resonance level, meaning how the airflow is flowing into the head. And then we've got the chord level. So we're going to kind of see both of these throw a little bit of a fit today. And that's what really this lesson is all about. It's actually how to get in there and find and feel what this mix situation is all about. So I just want to remind you guys that if you enjoy these videos, to give this a thumbs up and click that subscribe button below, because we're going to be doing this about every Monday and Thursday for you guys. I really wanted to create a space where we could meet together. Really, it's all about the dialogue. So I wanted to make myself as available as possible for you guys. We could come together, explore our voices, and figure this thing out together. So be sure that if you are unsure about 12 o'clock Nashville, Tennessee time, what time is that for you? We'll leave a link below for you guys so that you can find where that is in your time zone. So I'm happy that you're here. Let's jump into this. You guys ready? Okay. Oh my goodness. So I just want to really encourage you. Just really be here with you, because I know that my voice is going to throw a little bit of a fit. So go easy on me, go easy on yourselves. The big idea is that we take everything away from the voice. We take all those compensatory responses away. If your voice has a tendency to overly shape because it's trying to understand what placement is all about, we're taking that away. So we can expect a little backlash. We're also taking any tendency to grip or push the voice away. So we may get a little bit of wiggles in the voice. And with our first two lessons, where we explored the head voice and the chest voice, we really got into the idea that our job was to be very still and just let us know where this resonance was going on. So our resonating space that we're going to play with today is called the nasal port. Now we're going to explore what that means, and we're going to feel what that means. It's basically a slimy hallway that goes up the back of the mouth and into the nose. There's the science words are oropharynx. Basically where the throat meets the mouth, and the nasopharynx, where the throat meets the nose. So the nasal port is right in between that. And it's funky and it's weird, but we're gonna feel it together. The soft palate does play a little bit of a role. So I know I'm throwing a lot of words at you guys. So let's feel this. Let's feel what this feels like. What is the soft palate? It's basically the soft part of the roof of the mouth. So take your tongue, press it up against the back, top teeth, and then explore backwards with your tongue. That's your hard palate. Should be relatively hard. Keep going backward. Kind of feel where that gets soft. Now that's probably the biggest nuisance to the mixed voice. We're going to play with this today. So how can the soft palate be a nuisance to the mixed voice? Well, it depends. Let's say that I'm a singer and my tendency is to push the voice. So when I get into, let's say, this G, if I go, ga, like I still have control over it, but if I keep going up, ga, I'm really pushing on the voice. And I want you to see if you can hear where that air pressure pushes up against that soft palate. Starting to push on it. Can you hear? Yeah, you can really hear how I've gotten myself into a little bit of a situation with too much air pressure trying to push its way up through that nasal port. Eventually, my voice is not going to be able to take it. The air pressure is going to be able to drop, and that's where you get that massive flip into head voice. So just to illustrate that for you, listen to how the air pressure is pushing up against my soft palate. Right? You kind of hear how I'm shouting at you, right? Now that's a big tendency for a lot of singers, is to overcompensate with the air, push too much air through that nasal port. It's a slimy little hallway, which means that space gets smaller. And if you throw more air pressure in it, that air pressure is just going to collect inside of the mouth. Is this making kind of sense so far? Or if this is you guys helping you to understand how that's possible? So again, where does the soft palate come in? So if this is the soft palate and this is the front of my mouth, this is the soft palate. The air pressure is going to push up against that soft palate and lift it like a trap door. And that's exactly what we heard just there. I was kind of screaming at you because the air pressure pushed itself up and shut. You shall not pass. Right? You shall not pass going up into that nasal port. So the opposite is also true. We get a sort of headier, right? And that's where we get a little tentative, a little tender about going into the head space. So there's a lot of wiggle wobble that happens. So we've got to have a good sense of that nasal port before we even get going. So the best way to do that is I'm going to offer you some sounds I want you to see, because I can't hear you. So it's going to really rely on your ability to sense what's going on. So let's start at middle C. That's not going to be in your nasal port. That's going to be in your mouth for most skulls that I've seen. So we just want to be really still and notice as we just offer up this sound. Kind of feeling that in the front of my mouth here. Good. Don't push. Just let it happen. Let's go incrementally up from there. Feeling it around my nose, just to give you contrast. So I'm just seeing that those two notes, they're very close to each other, but they have different resonating spaces. Let's try those two notes together. Feel it go kind of toward the nose at the front of the mouth. Good. Get very specific because we've got to be able to feel where that's happening. Feeling that around my hard palate. Like right there, right at the roof of my mouth. Can you get a sense of something similar? I'm starting to feel my tone kind of shift backwards. Now it's going to start making that climb up through that nasal port. And if this is seeming confusing for you and you're going, I don't know what you're doing, lady, I will do this nice and slow for your ear. So I'm going to point to where I feel it. Front of my mouth. Into my nose. Hard palate. Hear it kind of turning backward. Now it's at the back of my throat. Now my resonance right here on that F is going to begin to climb through that slimy little hallway known as the nasal port. And I realize, I know this is really weird. So again, I'm going to do it one more time for you guys. can kind of hear those notes moving around up until we get right up against where that soft palate is, and that pressure is going to begin to push itself up into the back of that nasal port. Now we know that that's going to happen. We're going to work those notes again just so we can feel it, but the nasal port notes really start to anchor in around F, and they'll go to about B. That's a big chunk of that mixed resonance. So we want to be as still as possible. We don't want to push, but we also don't want to flip either. Be really still and let your acoustics feel what's necessary. Remember, it's kind of all about being as meditative as possible. So one more time for your ear, and then we'll try it together. Good. Let's try it together now. Here we go. Really knocking at that doorway of that nasal port around soft palate. Is everyone feeling comfortable so far? This beginning to make sense? And also encouraging, if your voice is going, it's going to do that today. I really want to encourage you, be very gentle with yourself, that's really what's going to happen, because we don't have anything for your voice to hold on to. It may be used to holding on to something, and we're not giving it anything to hold on to. So here we go. Here we're at that nasal port. Kind of feeling it begin to go up into that hallway in the back of my sinus cavity where my mouth meets my nose. Let's continue. Feel it back there? Yes, be very, very still, very still. Can you feel? No, I'm just speaking for myself. Your acoustics may be different. I can feel that A flat is right in the middle of that nasal port for me. So usually how this would be for me in the past is I'd hear that A flat and go, well, do I put this in chest voice? Like, ah, or do I put it in head voice? Ah. Can you kind of see what's happening? I'm preferring one or the other, but there's a total paradox here. That nasal port is saying it's this and that, this and that. So even if it's going, your voice is just kind of, is trying to stabilize that nasal port. Just let it. Try it again. Yeah, feel how it's resonating right in the back, right in that slimy hallway between mouth and nose. Yeah. One more time. Good. Really try to be, if your voice wants to flip, like head voice, just go ahead. I don't want it to flip for you. I don't want it to flip, but I don't want you to go, ha, either. I just want to, if you have to have a little bit more dominance in the nose and go, for now, good. Just feel your familiarity with that. Reinforce, strengthen the acoustics of that note. and see if you can kind of bring it into that nasal port. Feel nose and mouth touch each other. We'll get into more of that in just a second. Let's try that B flat one more time. That B is right at the top of my nasal port. Can you hear that? More time. Good. So if I go to the C, we're well into head voice at that point. Well into head voice at that point. So we did from C to C. And that's a good way to explore, which is where a lot of music is. It really asks that we have an understanding that there should be some equivalency between the development of the mouth and the nose. They've got to stabilize, which is where it comes down to that nasal port. How well the head voice is developed, how well that chest voice is developed, is going to determine how easily we can manage being in that in-between. Now notice that we've not said anything about distorting the nasal port. I've said nothing about move your soft palate this way or this way. We're not doing that just yet. And part of the reason for that is we've got to stabilize the nasal port using only our air. But I realize how difficult this exercise is. It doesn't seem like it, but it's really difficult. So I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you. Let's go to NG. This is a natural place for English speaking where the soft palate becomes neutral, slightly lowered, slightly lowered. So if we say the word sing, sing, the back of the tongue gently lifts to touch that soft palate and offer a little bit of assistance as the air goes up into the nasal space. So we do have a lack of mouth space available. This is when you need that little bit of assistance. So we're going to feel what this feels like, and we're just going to walk it down. If this is difficult for you, I do want you to go kind of into head voice. Continue to practice with it until you feel a natural blend happening where it feels like that resonance kind of works its way downward and it integrates a little bit more with that mouth. But if it's conversational and easy for you, I want you to feel that you can be right in the back of that nasal port. This is an F. So for many people, this is where that nasal port's really going to take command. Your breath is going to have to be really stable to keep that going. But let's give it a try together. Here we go. Breathe up into that nasal port. If your voice wants to go, let it, but walk it down with the full intention that it should feel like speaking by the time you get to the end. That will help you integrate. Let's try that one again. just want to remind you that if you feel that happening, all that is that airflow has been a little destabilized through the resonating chambers. So if that is you, if that happened to you, go ahead and try again. Good. Oh, the effort of this. Oh, the focus of this. Can you feel that nasal port? We're just trying to navigate. What is it? What does it feel like? And how do we breathe up into it? So the first is that we just breathe like that. The second is that if you need assistance, we use NG to help us do that. That will allow your airflow to be nice and consistent as you manage the craziness that is blending nose resonance into mouth resonance by focusing on that nasal port. So again, I don't want you to be in a place of distorting the nasal port too much. Like I don't want you to go like, oh, yeah. I don't want you to worry about that right now. Now, partly because it can be helpful. It can be very helpful to get inside there and move around a little bit. But the reason I don't want you to focus on that today is because oftentimes when we have a tendency to get too active, to get too involved in the back there, we're moving soft palate, we're moving the back of the throat, we're moving tongue, we're changing how the chords relate to it. We're getting so involved. And the chords and the acoustics and the breath, they never really have an opportunity to just be there, to just meet that moment acoustically and see what's going on, just to manage that space, manage that movement. So the best thing that I would have you do is when it gets too difficult, tilt the head down a little bit. Try your NG and just focus your breath through the nose as you're descending. Descending scales are a dream because it reinforces the feeling of relief. We're going for ease, we're going for fulfillment, we're relaxing the voice as we descend. Then as you get more comfortable with it, then you can lower that tongue and feel a little bit of a natural blend. Go easy, go slow, and just let that voice, if it's gonna do that, it's gonna do that, and that's okay. Touch it and touch it and touch it again until your breath has a habit of going up into that nasal port and balancing. I mentioned this last live that we did, that I had a brain injury last year. Now, it's really worth revisiting again because I couldn't touch my acoustics too much where pressure was involved. But the nasal port really pressurizes the back of that head, which was right where that injury was for me. Now, while I was healing, I didn't do too much in the way of mixing or the way of belting, so that when I came back to it, I had to reintegrate, reinvigorate what this feeling was like. So this particular note for me was something that shook for a while. I would go, like that. And I would get very frustrated with myself. A lot of the inner talking of, I should be better than this. I should know better than this. This should be not something I have to do all the time. First of all, that's not true. That's not true. If you don't use it, you lose it. Simple as that. So I would just touch it again, be very gentle with myself, and practice it. And if my voice wanted to shake, then I'd go lighter, but I wouldn't let it flip. Don't let it flip if you can help it. Because what that is doing is it's letting go of all of your air pressure. Just lets it go. And you can't really do much with it. It turns into a whispery head voice at that point. And you want to be able to embody that pressure slowly with time under tension. So I would go, offering that feeling of a sigh, and I noticed that that resonance kind of split. There's a little bit of mouth, there's a little bit of nose, but it concentrated itself right in that nasal port. You're not able to be sensitive to these types of balances and blends if you're in there distorting everything, moving everything. The voice is not able to get sensitive to those types of pressures. And mix, really developing a mix is all about embodying or pressurizing that nasal port. So there you have it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. I'll take some questions for you now, but before we get into that, just want to remind you that we have about 6 hours worth of lessons available on Skillshare. There's 2 modules and more to come. The 2 that are there now is Free the Voice, where we really get into this type of work. And then the other is Extend Your Range. So if you like today's video and you want to learn more, check out our Skillshare. We have about 6 hours worth of lessons, and there are going to be more. More to come, woo! And one more thing. We're going to be doing these lives every week, Monday and Thursday. So be sure to hit subscribe and click that bell. That way you're notified. You're notified for when those lessons come about. So here we go, guys. I'm going to be answering, forgive me. I'm just going to flip through and take a look. Oh, noise. And I called you N-O-I-Z last week. I'm so sorry. Noise, I love you. I'm glad you're here again. I feel like it's inherently less stable because it's a balancing act between chest and head. You couldn't be more right about that. You are genius. That's exactly what the sensation is. And we want to be really neutral. That way we're not saving. We're not rescuing the voice. We're not trying to make it easier. It's like being at the gym. Let that balancing act be very unstable. That's how you work those muscles. That's how they get stronger. That's how they get stronger, and we can stabilize a lot. All right. Yeah, also noise, to me, it's kind of like humming with your mouth open. Yes, in a very glorified way. Keep that H, offering that breath. That's called a non-phonatable consonant, meaning it's just at the onset. So if you breathe with the H as an H-U-H, that's the most neutral sound we've got. Going back to that A, I love that it's tortured me so much. The breath has a chance to flow up to that nasal port and stabilize through there. Okay, let me see here. Points as the F and flip nasal, not head. Oh, I feel we got a series. Also, it's usual for a guy to have about the same breaking points. Yes, and yes. Interesting. It's an interesting thing. You find that male and female voices kind of break in the same place. I think that's a skull thing rather than a voice type thing. Interesting observation. Let's see. Could you do a video about lip trills? Yes. Oh, yes. I definitely can. Lip trills are the best. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Catholic Calling, for your super chat. I really appreciate you guys' donations. It's how we're able to do content like this all the time. So thank you so much. Oh, let me see here. I'm loving this love. I'm loving the love. Thank you, guys. I really, it's my dominant intent to make singing easier for you, take the mystery out of singing. I find that Catholic Calling, yay, we love you. I love you too. Oh, yes. Well, okay, I'm reacting to a comment. Probably taking Mabel a bath. Well, she needs a bath. She definitely does. She loves to roll, and it's been raining a lot here lately, so she needs a bath. But neither here nor there. Yeah, it's my intention to make singing easier for you. And sometimes when we get involved in learning about our voice, especially with regards to relaxation, airflow, and resonating spaces, I would say that those are the 3 dominant categories that we must train our voice along. First of all, relaxation, because we're not going to get anything out of the voice if we're trying to move, and we get confused. We become very reactive with our voice. We get very scared with our voice, and I don't want you to be scared of your voice anymore. As you relax, you become more sensitive to that airflow. But that is a continual work. To me, that's why singing feels like a meditation. Just be really still, kind of see what's going on, see what's necessary. And I find that the more still I can be, the more developed and strong my breath becomes. When that happens, I trust my voice a lot more. Then we can kind of be a little playful as it pertains to the relationship between the air flowing into those resonating spaces. As we were feeling today, sometimes the nasal port is an area of the voice that, even for an experienced singer, it feels completely like, whoa, I didn't even know that was there. Yeah, it's weird, right? And it's a small hallway. If you look up a Google search of nasal port, you'll see it's usually got like a little circle over, a little square over. It's a very small space inside of the acoustics, but a lot of notes resonate within that space. So we've got to be able to stabilize that spot. It's very small and it's very hard to identify, which is why we can trust just offering these sighs, these H's flowing into the head space. That allows for us to get familiar with it. When we're familiar with it, now we're cooking. Now we've got a solid mix. And my big goal, this is like my dream for myself and for you guys, is that your voice does not feel like 3 different registers. The only reason why it would feel like 3 different registers is if you needed to isolate them in order to activate them, which is really critical and crucial. We have to, we've got to isolate and activate before we can get into the blend work. But once you know the sensation of what that register feels like, immediately begin blending. And just to reiterate how simple a blend is, just relax. Make a sound and deeply relax. That's the back of the throat relaxing to allow natural integration to happen. If you find that when you relax, it wobbles, well, you're overly shaping, you're overly placing, you're overly maneuvering in order to try to focus the sound. And let me give you a story that will make this make sense, because I know sometimes I just go and it's confusing. So when I was in college and I was in a musical conservatory, I did not have a solid understanding of relaxation and breath being the foundation of the voice. I didn't. My voice was just as nervous as everybody else's. I'm a squirrely, nervous person. So I was trained that everything, because I was trained classically, is that when you approach any note, that you offer a shape, like and that was the objective, is that shape should be consistent with the onset of sound. Now, here's where it does not work. It's great in stylizing your work after your air is flowing nice and consistently. But in my case, this is what happened when I realized that I wanted to go from a head voice to a chest voice. And my breath was not stable and my body was not relaxed. So this is what happened. I went... So what did that do to me? First of all, it traumatized me, but it made me not trust my ability to relax. No. Kind of put the cart before the horse, so to speak. Well, I went for quality before I went for foundation. Went for sound quality. I could sing songs like that, and I could sing them very well, but my voice was locked. It was locked into that sound. And as I relaxed, my body was not relaxed and my airflow was not consistent. So of course, it's going to fall apart. So I had to learn to, take all that style, take all that quality away and start at kind of ground zero and just be there be nice and consistent, and flow the air. And then I could do whatever I wanted to in terms of style. So I just want to encourage you guys that as you do this work, do not fret, especially if it seems kind of blah, like there's not a lot of quality to it. We're not shaping anything. We're going really neutral. We want to build that consistency of air always stabilizing into your channel resonators, mouth, nasal port, head. And as it does, then you can make whatever shapes you want to because your air is nice and stable. Does that make sense? So I'll just take one more question. Oh, bear with me, guys, if you see me scrolling. Let's see. Okay, Desiree. I have trouble going from chest to head. I have a tendency of whispering, and sometimes my head voice will crack. How do I fix that without cracking when I switch? So you got to know, Desiree, you got to feel like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What's my tendency? Is it to push? Am I pushing too much air? And if I'm pushing too much air, you've got too much air volume, flow rate, pushing itself into that nasal port. That's not going to work because it's a small space. So I would say, instead of going like big, loud, proud chest voice, play with dynamics. Take it a little bit softer. And as you go higher and higher, let's see what the right around speech level, but maybe a little softer, not quite in that head voice feeling, but play with that dynamics and just explore. Can you take that sound from the bottom of that nasal port, which is where it comfortably is going to be in chest voice, and then just kind of up on the HUH. So let me see if I can give you an example between E and F. So it can kind of feel that F is inviting that resonance up into that nasal port. And I'm just going to sit there with it. And I'm going to reinforce that relationship with it. The more comfortable you get with just being there with it without making anything happen, the more reinforced that sound will be and the more blended that sound will be. Okay, so I lied. One more question. Let's see. Oh, noise. Can you do a video on whistle notes? Yes, but in a little bit, Whistle notes are no joke, so hard. Let's see. What do you mean by flip? That's a legit question. It means a sudden change of sound. So if I'm going, let me see here. If you get that sudden change of sound and it doesn't feel like it's nice and smooth, it is the air pressure dropping. Suddenly, just drops and the sound kind of pops up into the head voice. You want it to be nice and smooth, nice and consistent. Okay, alrighty. Linda, little off topic, but Madeleine, what is your birthday? I'm curious about your zodiac. So me thing to say. I ask complete strangers, let me guess your zodiac sign. Okay, so if you guys are interested. Oh man. Okay, so my sun sign is a Scorpitarius. So I'm right in that blend of best of both, Scorpio and Sagittarius. My rising sign is Cancer, which, oh yeah, so me. And my moon sign is Pisces. So yeah, lots of water with a little touch of fire, which I like to think makes me a little steamy. So there you have it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I absolutely love doing these. I'm so glad we have the community that we have. I hope today gave you at least a starting point of how to feel your mix. Of course, this is not all there is to registration. We have a lot of, it gets a lot more fancy from there. But if you have any questions, I really want to encourage you to ask me to do videos. This is what these lives are all about. These videos are going to be completely guided by your questions. So be sure to leave a comment below of what you want to learn, and I will do a video as best as I can. Noise, I'm gonna get to your whistle voice. I just gotta develop it a little bit. I've got to understand it a little bit more before I talk about it, because I want to simplify. That's always my objective. Simplify for you guys. So I love you. I love you. I love you. Have a wonderful, sweet, sweet dreams if you're across the pond and this is really late for you. But enjoy the rest of your day if you're stateside. I love you guys. And I will see you later. Bye.